So this history becomes important in understanding the role of the AME Church in Bullock County, in Georgia, and in the nation. I hear that old song we used to sing at church. May the work I've done speak for me. When I'm resting in my grave and there's nothing that can be said, may the work I've done speak for me. If these cemeteries could talk, oh, the stories they could tell. And Lord knows we have had some stories today. We have seen the connectivity. We've seen the great migration into Bullock County. We've seen the great migration out of Bullock County. And we've seen those souls who stayed and fought the battle, and those who are resting here waiting for that great getting up moment. On the third Saturday of each month, we will be at a different cemetery. Thank you so much, and may God bless all of you. Hello. Welcome to our series, If These Cemeteries Could Talk. Oh, the stories they would tell. We are in Leefield, Georgia, about 5 miles from Brooklyn, Georgia, in Bullock County, Georgia, at the Jerusalem African Methodist Episcopal Church that was founded in May of 1883. What a legacy. Today, we will review some of the history of the African American Church, African American Methodist Episcopal Church, and the Jerusalem School found here on this site. To talk about Jerusalem, we must first talk about the African Methodist Episcopal Church, which was founded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. There were two great men, namely Richard Allen and Absalom Jones, who partnered with David Coker, who in 1816 formed the AME Church as the first independent black denomination in the United States. Now, the origin of that church or denomination had to do with discrimination that was happening in the Methodist Church in Philadelphia, namely St. George's, which was a very, very old church where many of the African Americans attended. During one of these services, African Americans were not allowed to participate. In fact, they were asked out of the church. From this incident, Richard Allen and Absalom Jones, who were members of the Free African Society, formed the Church Bethel, Great Mother Bethel, in Philadelphia. Later that was in the 1790s. Later in 1816, Coker, who was in Baltimore, came down to Philadelphia, and that is the origin of the African American Episcopal Church in 1816. So let's talk a little bit about other African Methodist Episcopal churches. Mother Bethel, Philadelphia being the oldest. Mother Emanuel in Charleston, South Carolina is the oldest African American Episcopal church in the Southeast, founded around 1817. And I want to talk a lot about Bishop Turner. He was born a free black person of mixed lineage, and he was instrumental in founding many of these churches. He moved to Georgia he joined first the Methodist Church in 1858, moved to Georgia, was appointed to the Freeman Bureau, and was one of the first bishops in the AME Church. What is so interesting, he was the bishop when Jerusalem was founded. Now let's talk a little bit about African Methodist Episcopal churches in Bullock County. Before that, St. Philip's in Savannah in 1865 is the first AME church in Georgia. Now, about 4 years later, in 1869, Mount Zion AME Church was the first AME church in Bullock County, Georgia, from 1869. Additionally, Mount Pisgah in Portal was the next one in 1881, followed by Jerusalem in 1883, then Greater Bethel in Statesboro, Georgia from 1886, and finally in Brooklet, Georgia, St. Mary's was the last AME church that was organized. Bishop Turner, who was appointed in Georgia, who resided in Macon, was very, very instrumental in moving to start many of these African American churches. He also was elected to the Georgia legislature in around 1868. Most of you who know that history know that those early legislators in Georgia were dismissed from the Georgia legislature. Bishop Turner became a black nationalist, and his goal at one time was to have African Americans return to Africa, and Liberia was one of the main places. There were several African Americans, some from Bullock County, some from Hancock County and other places, that came down to Savannah and boarded the ship going to Liberia. So this history becomes important in understanding the role of the AME Church in Bullock County, in Georgia, and in the nation. In addition for religious instructions, it also had political entities that was encouraging African Americans to participate in the political process. Now, later on, we want to talk a little bit about the schools that were started by the AME Church, namely Allen University in South Carolina, Daniel Payne College, Ed Waters College in Florida, Morris Brown College in Atlanta, Shorter College in Arkansas, Paul Quinn College in Texas, and perhaps the most famous of all of them, Wilberforce, which was founded during the period of enslavement in 1856 as one of the earliest schools for African Americans in the United States. So there's also a group called the AME Zion Church, which was founded around the same time as the AME Church, but the AME Church was much larger than the AME Zion. Both of them were interested in the liberation of African Americans. And Livingstone College in North Carolina is a product of the AME Zion Church. So that is a little bit about the history of the AME Church in Bullock County, in Georgia, and in the United States. Now we will move over to show you the headstone at the Jerusalem AME Church, which was organized May 8, 1883, and Bishop Turner was the bishop and Reverend Millen was the pastor. Now, And you see other members with Reverend S.W. Grant, who was also important. And we have a list of the trustees: L.W. Williams, J. Taylor, B. Jones. And this building was rebuilt in 1981. However, in the 30s, there was another church that was rebuilt. In this area just behind me in my back is the site of the Jerusalem AME School. Now, I don't know the exact date of the starting of the Jerusalem AME schools. However, when we do research through the Savannah Tribune, which was an African American publication out of Savannah, Georgia, which was founded around 1876. In the 1900 edition of the Savannah Tribune, Jerusalem AME School is mentioned. So at least in 1900, Jerusalem had a school. And there was a lady by the name of Ethel Bishard, B-I-S-C-A-R-D. I believe B-I-S-A-R-D. Her name was Ethel, and she taught here at this school. And she was a graduate of Georgia State, which is now known as Savannah State University. She graduated in 1900. So this place, this sacred ground, has a long lineage of education and religious issues and religious freedom for the people of this part of Bullock County, Georgia. At this time, we will go to the cemetery and continue with If These Cemeteries Could Talk. Now, the cemetery is located about a fourth of a mile from this church. Now, Leafield, Georgia itself was started around 1915 when the Midland and the Seabrook railroad tracks came together. And these entities created the town of Leafield with a Tom Lee as the main person, and that's how it got its name. However, Jerusalem existed long before Leafield itself as a community. Thank you. One of the first tombstone we are approaching where there is a headstone is that of a Williams child. I cannot make out her first name. However, she was born in 1880 and died in 1884. And that was 1 year after the starting of Jerusalem AME Church. As I look over there, I see another piece of stump, and perhaps there was a grave there as well. As we go down this line, we're going to see a lot of names. This is a Whitfield, born in 1904. The grave next to it is unmarked. Now, one of the things I've noticed in this cemetery, there are lots of Smiths. This is Joseph Smith Jr., born in 1937 and died in 2009. The relationship between the Smiths, I don't know yet, but if anyone has additional information that can help us with our series, If These Cemeteries Could Talk, I would love to know that. This is Kaiser Smith, born in 1939 and died in 2003. Here is Julia Ann Smith, born in 51, died in 2008. And I am sure that all of these are related because they're in a line, and the custom is that you bury family members together in these small rural cemeteries. This is Thelma Johnson Smith, born in 1930, died in 2012. And we have John Franklin, and because they're together, I'm assuming that they're husband and wife. He was born in 1935 and died in 1990. And next to them is a John Franklin. Now, I'm wondering if this tombstone goes with that because the dates are the same. So I suspect that this one goes with that one there, and because the dates are the same. Here we have a Lily Mae Smith, born in 31 and died in 2014. Next to her is a Hazel Smith, born in 1930, died in 2003. So this whole line of Smiths are, I am sure, related. As we move further down the cemetery toward the fence, we see a Dontavius Johnson, and one of the Smith maiden name was Johnson. Born in 1886, died in 2019. And the final grave on this line is a James Smith, born in 1965 and died in 2023 or 5, which is going to be one of the last. This is 2023, so this will be probably one of the last burials here. Again, as we move here and see these old stumps, these are the remnants of cedar trees, and as you look at the rings in the tree, you know that there are a lot of years associated with these trees, and usually in these rural cemeteries, cedar trees marked a burial site, and here's another one there. Now we'll go in this line here, and again, we got more Smith, so all of this is related. You got Roxella Smith, Rosie, born in 41, died in 2021. And you have Dorothy M. Smith, Dot, born in 47, died in 2019. And these are somehow related, and they're roughly around the same age, so it couldn't be mother and daughter. So I do need help with the Smiths, as anyone knows this family history. James Edward Smith, born in 46, died in 2009. And this is Carrie B. Young in the same family plot. She was born in 61 and died in 2018. Okay? Now, as we go back to this line, you will see a lot of indentations in the cemetery, and usually indentations means that these were burial sites that have been lost. And if you look closely, you will see some old markers sticking out of the ground. And again, here is another cedar tree, which usually marks the site of a burial. And as you look here, and all these indentations are probably burial sites. Now here is something here, has AM on it, and I'm wondering if it's related to the Millen family or not, because they were very instrumental here. At some point we need to dig these up. Here is another marker here, and so we really do need to figure this one out. I can't tell what it is, but there's a grave there and there's a grave here. So hopefully over time, if someone knows who these individuals are, we can give them refresh markers. And there is no name there, but that represents the site of someone who was buried here. And so this whole central area represents the early burials in this cemetery. Here's another one, sacred to the memory of This person looked like they was born in 1886 and died looked like 92. So this was a young child and looked like the last name was Millen. And so Reverend Millen was one of the early or the first pastor of the church. His relative AME Millen taught at Jerusalem school for years and years. In fact, she had more tenure than any other teacher at the school. One wonders if these older graves, you see they are cement type markers, are related to those early members of the Jerusalem church and the Millen and Smith families that had a very, very important role in the church. Now, as we come to this line, these are the Codys. Rufus Calvin Cody, a young man born in 47, died in 2021. Next to him is an unmarked grave, but usually graves are put together as they are related. This grave here is Rosalie Cody, born in 24, died in 1998. So these, I suspect, are related. Now here is a Floyd Cody, probably husband and wife, and these are probably children or grandchildren. He was in the United States Army. He was born April 1st, 1922, and died March 25th, 1981. Next to his burial site, and here is a small marker here. I don't see a grave, but this usually signifies a grave, okay? Now this George Washington Cody, probably all related. If you see the similarity of the headstones, I suspect mom and dad there. He was born in February 22nd, 1946, and died in 1994. So this is a group of family members. This grave is unmarked. However, there is some writing on it that we're not able to decipher. This grave here is Sam Whitfield, and when we first came in, we saw Whitfield over there as well, so probably related. Sam Whitfield, born July 16, 1916, died August 8, 1992. Now here is a whole line, unmarked graves. If anyone knows who these graves are, please contact me so that we can mark these graves so that these individuals who lived an important life can be remembered. I hear that old song we used to sing at church. May the work I've done speak for me. When I'm resting in my grave and there's nothing that can be said, may the work I've done speak for me. And so I hear the spirit of all these folk, some of them marked, some of them not marked, but their spirits say, may the work I've done speak for me. All right, all of these here are unmarked. So I would love if we could get someone who knows. Now this one did have something long time ago, but I can't read that. But this one did have a headstone. All right, as we go to, again, I suspect there are graves over in that site. This grave here, this is Clifford Jackson Jr., born in 1950, died in 2023. So at least there are two out here in 2023. This one was marked at one time, but the marker's gone. No marker here. And this one is a Ronnie Millen. And remember, a Reverend Millen was the first pastor of Jerusalem in 1883. And remember, AME Millen taught for a number of years at the Jerusalem School, which closed in 1952. One wonders if these are relatives. Okay, in this line, we have the Reeds, R-E-E-D. Again, this is all family. Willie Reed died in 76. Can't quite see he was either born in 18 or 13. Willie James Reed, born in 1936, died in 2016. No doubt father, son, or some other relatives. Unmarked graves, suspect they probably are related to the Reeds, because the first grave in this line is a Reed, and the last one is Frank Russell Reed, born August 17, 1948, died August 13, 2020, born and died in the same month. Okay, in our final row of graves, these are the Pages, P-A-G-E. This is Lizzie Page, born in 1931, died in 2013. And there's a photograph of Lizzie Page there. And next to Lizzie is Columbus Page, born in 25, died in 71. So wonder if Lizzie and Columbus, they definitely relatives, is this husband and wife. Here is a Lewis Page. Look like Lewis is born in 19, maybe 11. Can't see exactly when he when he died. Here's an Anna W. Page. Has mother at the top, August 18, 1918, died in 1987. So all of these Pages, I am sure, are remembered. Now here is a Nora Garrett Page, born in 1886, died in 1988, 102 years old, nearly. So this is the most senior person that I've run to in this cemetery. She was born 3 years after Jerusalem Church was organized in 1883. I salute you, Norma Garrett Page. May your spirit and your lineage continue. Daisy Page, born in 1919, died in 2002. Willie Jean Cobb, these are the Cobbs, probably related to the Page because he's right in the middle. November 1949. This is probably the next generation. Died in 2004. Here is a Clinton Benjamin Page, born May 11, 1945. Died August 2019. And the final grave, Ashley Garrett, Garrette, Page, born July 30th, 1979, died February the 4th, 1922. I want to commend the Jerusalem AME Church and Pastor, I believe, Sims, who I had the honor of meeting, and he did serve the Last Supper when I was at the church recently. And the spirit, Pastor Shelley, and the spirit of the church was just totally amazing. I felt so welcome there. And when I see how well the church and the cemetery grounds are kept, it tells you something about Jerusalem AME Church. And to all of you who are buried here, may the work you have done speak for you. And as they said, and when I'm resting in my grave, ain't nothing can be said May the work I've done speak for me. May the work you've done speak for you. Thank y'all so much, and we see you next month for our continued series, If These Cemeteries Could Talk. Oh, the stories they will tell. And there's a lot of stories here at Jerusalem Cemetery that I need some help from individuals who know it that can help me record and tell this important story in history. Thank you. I want to talk briefly again about the Jerusalem AME School. And I talked about Ethel Bishard, B-I-S-A-R-D, who I know through the Savannah Tribune taught at Jerusalem AME in the early 1900s, as she graduated from Georgia State in 1900, June 6, 1900. Now, the records between her tenure there, and I don't know how long it is, and when we have information from the Bullock County Board of Education, the next individual I have is Annie Mae Millen, and I talked a lot about her because there's some Millens here and there's Millens on the marker at the church. She was a teacher here at Jerusalem from 38 to 40, and then from 40 to 41, Veneta Cone, V-E-N-E-D-A, Veneta. From 1941 to 46, Marie Lewis. Juanita McFadder from 1943 to 44, and then the rest of the teaching experience until the school closed on May 30th, 1952, was Annie Mae Millen, and she started her teaching career in 1931. Now, whether it was at Jerusalem, I can't say at this time. The other point I want to mention is that Jerusalem was not the only African American school located in Leafield. There was a Moriah School, and our records note that it had 12 students, and there was information in the Bullock County Board of Education records which talked about Moriah School consolidating with another school. So education to the AME Church was very important. We talked previously about many of the universities and colleges started, but also they started small elementary and normal schools all around the country.